Just. And we are live. Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock, something that I will definitely call Deeper Dive at some point in time in the next week or so, because I've been saying it for months. I'm Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Eric Lindquist. We got an hour until lock. We got a lot to talk about, and I'm going to do a pretty bad job of it today until I get back into the swing of things for Live Before Lock. I just don't know the rhythms, man. It's a completely different show. It's like, what would be a good comp? I don't know. Something normal, and then it changes.
Feel the rhythm, feel the ride. Get on up. It's bobsled time. You'll be just fine.
What's going on, brother?
Not much. Ready to rock with this slate. Obviously, kind of an important Q tag that's on the screen right now with Giannis for sure. He is the big piece of news that will shift things if it happens. If it doesn't, such is life. I think Steph plays. I think Jamal Murray plays. Walker Kessler Q tag, which definitely matters, I suppose, if you're going to talk Kyle Filipowski. But otherwise, have all MLB lineup, but focus primarily on NBA. How about yourself?
I'm 1,000,000% NBA for today. I like this slate. I think it's really good for late swap. We've got 2 7:30 games. We've got 3 games at 8. We've got the Island game at 9 o'clock. Greg and I will be on playback for an hour. We're going to have 2 separate opportunities for all of the swaps. So, if your lineups are looking bad, try to get some contrarianism in there. If they're looking good with some flyers, then try to eat a little bit more chalk later on. But where should we begin today? I mean, let's start at the top. We've got Giannis Antetokounmpo. We've got Nikola Jokic. Jokic is 12-3 on DraftKings. Giannis is 11-5. We've got them both projected for around 60 fantasy points. The next closest guy is Towns at 52. So they're 8 clear there. And then they're another 7 from the next group of guys. They are so far above everybody else. We're seeing 40% ownership to Jokic, 50% ownership to Giannis on a day where we don't even know if he's playing. Are you just jamming these dudes and figuring it out later, or do you want to get away from one of them and try to pay up elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, if KJ Simpson, if Schroeder didn't exist, where I think he's in a massive bounce back spot today against Cleveland, at least from a fantasy perspective. If we didn't have Kolek, I mean, we just have so many of these cheapies that are really, really good values at the guard position. And then it just so happens that I think the thing to really point out about the spend ups is that they're at forward and center. So like you got Jokic, you got Giannis, you got Kat. It just so works. The guys that we're going to be punting with are down at the guard position. So it gives you an unbelievable opportunity to just get to gobs of these guys. Right now, I'm jamming Giannis, it would appear, but I'm happy to make that Jokic and knowing that it's going to be in that later window too. If anything were to happen here to Giannis, I think it shouldn't be too hard to be able to find some exposure. I'm boosting a couple pieces on the Utah side to try to account for the Walker Kessler Q tag that may be a big deal, may not. If he ends up in, obviously, I won't want to probably get to anything considering it's just Collins and Markkanen out. But Kyle Filipowski becomes interesting if he starts at the 5. I think for sure you get some lower usage guys at the 4. And so I think it's just those slates that, yeah, all the punts are at guard. We have these spend ups. I have 70% Giannis. I have 50% Jokic. I have 40% Towns, and it's not that hard.
Yeah, I have 49 Jokic, 57 Giannis, 35 Towns. So we're basically saying the same numbers. And it's because of this. At 4,500 or below today on DK, 20% ownership Yves Missi, 20% ownership Jordan Hawkins, 20% ownership Asar Thompson, 50 to KJ Simpson, 10 more for Jacoby Walter, Yusuf Nurkic, Bryce Sensabaugh, 15 more for Marcus Sasser, 30 more for Tyler Kolek, 10 more for Elfrid Payton, 13 more for Salan. We got a lot of dudes to pay down for, and there are more than what I named that are like reasonable enough guys that can be pivots to what I talked about. So we're inundated with value. We're not struggling at all to pay up for these guys. What happens at 7:31 p.m. when Giannis gets ruled out? Because then we're taking the second most expensive guy on the slate, the 50% owned guy, and changing everything that we have.
Yeah, it won't be my problem. It'll be you and Greg's problem over on Playback, and hopefully you guys are tuning in for that because obviously it's gigantic news. You just need to have a game plan in place, which for me right now, I'm not freaking out too much. Obviously, we do have pieces of value. Schroeder early on. It's only Cleveland, Detroit that locks right out of the gate. We get an extra half hour after lock, and I'm just kind of hoping something happens where we get some clarity in between that. And I'll be able to decide exactly what I want to do with KJ Simpson, with Salon, with some of these other pieces in that Charlotte spot. As you said, if it's 731 that it drops, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable, but I got to think that we can turn some of the Giannis into Jokic. I got to think that we can turn some pieces of value around in some spots, because obviously we'll have other places from Milwaukee we want to go. I mean, absolutely everybody without Dame and Giannis look incredible. We're still, 5-6 games away from seeing Bobby Portis return to that rotation. But like, I am not freaking out about it yet. Maybe I should be.
Does Kevin Durant become really sneak popular after the fact? Like, is he a guy that you almost want to try to avoid because he's going to pick up ownership if Giannis ends up out?
It's a really good point.
Do you want to try to go a different direction?
That happened with Booker. What slate was that with the Suns, where it's just like, oh shit, guess we're all playing Booker today? I think it was Jokic actually that got ruled out, and it was like 3K down, and Durant might have been out, or maybe it was Durant. But I think that's a really good point where you almost want to be Kevin Durant averse, where he's going to be like the most overowned piece relative to his chances of being optimal if you lose it.
Part of me likes getting Devin Booker in that scenario if I can a little bit more. If Giannis is ruled out at a time where like the swap makes it so that getting from Giannis to Durant is a popular move.
Yeah, and Ant probably becomes the most intriguing guy to go in utility if you're just like dropping down. So like it probably ends up being an Ant utility issue. And, if you're playing cash, obviously you need to be very concerned about these things if you're building out like one lineup and figuring out what those swaps are. So you're just hand building. And we do have that single lineup simulator where you can get our optimal and update it constantly. These are kind of things that Josh has had built forever in his own stuff, but like now is coming to the masses, which I appreciate because I'm able to just click the button and get the optimal. You're going to want to probably be doing that all the way up to lock, and then toying around with like some changes in projection, which you can change directly on that screen. I would probably figure out what those swaps are right from the get-go if I'm just playing one lineup, but out of 150, or, in this case, I'm playing 60 lineups here today. I think I'll probably just kind of hope that news drops within that half hour. And if not, I'll probably toy around with some of the swaps. But right now, it feels not unnecessary work because, we'll be in crunch time if it's 7:25 and we don't have that news. But I think it's a really good point, and shout out that if you are in the forward position and you only have Giannis left, you could be running into like 50% Kevin Durant for no reason other than you have no other options.
How would you like to handle the Tyler Kolek, DeLon Wright, New York Knicks dilemma that we have today, where I don't really have any confidence in anything that's going to get done?
I think Kolek's going to play a lot.
Okay.
I get the impression that it's going to be the case. Like, I think Kolek's I think he's going to be a decent NBA player. Like, he's a rookie. There's obviously some uncertainty to it, but if he gets the start, which I have him starting, I think there's 30-minute upside. I'm not going to project him for 30 minutes, but like, he definitely feels like the kind of guy also that is going to be able to put up stats that it's almost like Miles McBride was probably like your massive ceiling guy, but like his price tag's 3,200 there. And the usage won't be there in any way, shape, or form, but he fills up a box score a little bit better than most. I mean, you look around the industry, his rebound, his assist prop jumps off the chart at 6.5, where it's hard to look at that and think that he isn't the guy, because otherwise you just short that to the moon and make $1 billion by taking under 6.5 assists. But considering I'm just uploading that into the prop sheet and taking a look at it, I think at 3,200, he's your best value amongst everything that we have here that isn't named Dennis Schroeder, who I do prefer, but he is the first game out of the gate.
My biggest concern is just that Tibbs hates young people.
It's true. Yeah.
That's the part that scares me. Well, more than anything, I'm at least a little nervous of 30% ownership to 2. Like, that disparity seems scary for a situation where we definitely don't have confidence in what's going to happen. Like, whoever starts, you obviously feel better about, but nothing feels great here.
If it makes you feel better, Tyler Kolek was a fifth-year senior at Marquette. He's 24 already. Like, he has basketball. Like, he's not like the typical 19-year-old idiot that's showing up. Like, you think about how many times Emmanuel quickly got ripped off the floor in 2 seconds because he missed one defensive matchup, and Tibbs just hated him and was like, yeah, get rid of this guy immediately. He doesn't listen to me defensively. Tyler Kolek isn't going to be that guy. Like, he doesn't do stupid things like that. Is he athletic? No. Is he like, I mean, he's athletic relative to the average person, obviously, but like, is he an athletic NBA player? No, but he's a smart basketball player. He was just kind of like the nails on guy. And if you watched college basketball last year at Marquette, he was awesome at just kind of like floor general, did everything. He got hurt right before the tournament, then came back for the tournament, and they really, really struggled. And the coach just talked about, it's Shaka Smart, right? Wasn't he the coach there or whatever? He was basically just talking about like how unbelievable he was and like the locker room guy that he is. Like, I think Tyler Kolek might play. Like, I'd be very shocked if he played fewer than 24 minutes in like any circumstance as long as he starts.
I wouldn't be shocked in that scenario, but if he starts, I'm going to be like, I have 50% right now, so okay. I can't complain. He's 30% owned. I'm going to have him. But I do want to get DeLon Wright as well. It's not going to take much for Tibbs to just lean on guys that aren't, 23 years old. What do you want to do with the rest of this Knicks team? Because I've got a bunch of all of these guys. Towns looks great. I'm happy to get Anunoby, Hart, Bridges. Like, I'm expecting Tibbs to lean on these guys because they're shorthanded.
Yeah, I like pretty much everybody in a Knicks uniform. I mean, the minutes upside for like this could be, we've been waiting for it. I don't think it's likely, but like, I'd say it's around a 10% chance we get like the 44, 45 minute Josh Hart game. Like, yeah. I think it's more live today than I can't remember the last time that I thought, oh yeah, I really want to get to him. I think DeLon Wright is obviously your leverage on a start from Kolek. Like, if something happens, DeLon Wright, he's a defensive guy. Like, that's what he was last year with Spo in Miami. That was always the conversation, was like, his brother was there, DeLon. They wanted to bring him in. And like, that's kind of the Tibbs thing where, yeah, if you see one guy that's going to, surpass Tyler Kolek and just get way more court time, I think it's very clearly DeLon Wright, but I don't see it being that start. So for me, I'm just kind of playing the Kolek side of it. As you said, 50% for you. I've got more than that at the moment. But the ancillary pieces, I brought up Cat before. He has more of like the positionality deal where he has to compete with Jokic and Giannis. And right now, I just prefer those two for raw fantasy points with all the value we have. But I'm still over the field on Cat. And then Josh Hart, playing tons of him right now. I think he's my favorite of the next grouping. OG Anunoby's kind of interesting because now we've seen 37 plus minutes in 4 of 5. Feels like he's never getting ripped off the floor for Precious Achiuwa. And I don't know what to make of that. Do you think that's just like a constant that we're going to get 38 minutes of OG Anunoby? Because there's no doubt he shot the ball abnormally well for him. Mikal Bridges is starting to put it together, but like as they get thinner, we probably just see a surplus of minutes to guys like Josh Hart and OG Anunoby who aren't point guards, but can definitely handle the ball somewhat.
I'm hoping exactly what we expect Tibbs to do happens here, and that Bridges plays like 40, Hart plays like 40, and Anunoby plays like 40. I'm going to allow for like a 1% chance that Precious Achiuwa starts if Giannis is starting, but we don't need to go too deep into that one. I don't think it matters all that much, but it would kind of make a little bit of sense if you just want to match up bigger in the minutes that Giannis is going to be on the floor.
Is that point Hart, basically? I mean, it's not going to be, Bridges, you could say.
Yeah.
More like point Hart. We saw at Portland at times last year with the Knicks, but like, yeah.
Here's my follow-up. Where does Marcus Sasser land in this entire deal for you? So now we're talking about bench guard. So in the same vein as DeLon Wright, close to 20% owned. We have him 29% optimal at 3,300. Where does he land in this Tyler Kolek, DeLon Wright dilemma? Because he's kind of in the middle from an ownership perspective. But again, like now we're just talking bench guy.
It's unsustainably good shooting the last two. So if you watch the game Sunday against the Pelicans, it was just insane foul trouble for Dennis Schroeder and Asar Thompson. Both of them were in terrible foul trouble. The Thompson one stuck out to me more between the two of them. And then Ron Holland ended up on the floor playing a bunch. And Ron Holland played incredible on Sunday. And then this last time out against San Antonio, Marcus Sasser played a lot. because of the massive Dennis Schroeder foul trouble. I mean, it was instant. He had like 2 in his first rotation, had a third like right from the get-go there in the middle of the second quarter when he got back in. Only played 23 minutes, and the game was already so south because Sasser made everything. I get a little bit worried considering it's Cleveland on the other side, a competitive spot, that Sasser's minutes just come down. And if he doesn't unsustainably shoot the ball, I mean, let me pull up what he did the last 2, because it's just been insane. 26 minutes out of nowhere. It went from like out of the rotation or cleanup duty to like 26 minutes the last 2. And obviously no Cade Cunningham, so it makes sense. Like, yeah, you could put him in for 18, 20 minutes, but I get a little bit worried. And I like what I see on the screen from you, like 23 minutes. He's at least a conversation piece, but like you have him more than the ownership for sure. And I get worried that the ownership might be even higher because of box score watching, because, people are looking at that and just saying, oh, Marcus Sasser. And I just value Dennis Schroeder so much higher because I think he just gets all the opportunity to be 30, 32 minutes. Sasser, you reduce down to 18, maybe 2-3 minutes side by side there. But like, there's no doubt that he's interesting, but I think he's just over-owned right now at the moment.
I don't love the amount that I have, and I'm hoping that can move around a little bit, especially like if I start boosting DeLon Wright in a half hour, maybe that'll come at the expense of Sasser. Before we do anything, we've got 1,500 people in the door. One, I would love you guys to hit the like button. We should be able to run this up north of 200 at this point. And then 2, it's MLB DFS season. MLB Live Before Lock was from 5 to 6, but you can still get an MLB DFS package at Stokastic for $1 using the promo code CYCLE. You'll see a link for it in chat. You'll see a link in the description of this video. Projections, ownership, top stacks, top pitchers, top batters, a single lineup simulator, which I love, contest generator, our regular sims, post-contest sims, Discord. I'm naming a lot of stuff, and you get it for $1 through April 3rd. Core package, max package, weekly, monthly, whatever you're looking for. It's $1 through April 3rd. It will re-up on April 4th for whatever you selected, unless you cancel before that point. But you're not going to want to cancel. You want to get the best tools in the business? You come in with the promo code CYCLE. So do that while you're hitting the like button. It would be incredibly helpful for all of us. All right. We're good. I got the overlay back on.
Look at that.
We're getting this managed.
Incredible stuff. I mean, people don't understand what's going on in the ruckusness that is StreamYard. It's good times.
I can't wait till they make it better, but that's besides the point. Who is someone we haven't... That's true. Who is someone we haven't talked about yet that you want to talk about?
Oh, God. Do we want to have like the Pelicans conversation?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I want to just go through the entire roster here because we have no McCollum. We have no Zion. You got some, I would say, advantageous price tags. Obviously, it's not a great matchup, but every single player on the entire team is 5,800 and under. And Alvarado, 5,100. Brown, I'm assuming, starts 4,800. Misi, we talked about his ownership. I just want to comb through this and wonder why Carlo Matkovic isn't pulling more ownership, because you've got him at 5%, 3% in your lineups right now. I'm obsessed with him for tournaments. I've kind of been obsessed with him for a while for tournaments. He hasn't had like the crazy minutes upside, but it doesn't take much for them to decide to play Kelly Olynyk 22 minutes and then play Matkovic 26.
Yeah.
And we're talking a really good fantasy producer. We're talking blowout run. We're talking so many ways where I think Matkovic can walk into more minutes than projected. And if he were 20% owned, this wouldn't even be a conversation. I wouldn't care. But right now, he's the most overweight that I am to anybody. It gets me away from some of the pieces of value that are on early. And I think the 4,200 tag is kind of important as well because it's at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I said I'm not really thinking about too much with Giannis. Obviously, there won't be many lineups where I don't have 2 lineup spots if I'm going to be playing a lot more Matkovic right now. I don't think he starts, but still, I think there's just so many ways that a good fantasy producer like him, who's a good rebounder, walks into more minutes. And I would also, Giannis 50-50 to play. Thanks a lot, Doc Rivers, for just being a piece of shit.
Thanks for telling me what I already assumed.
That's literally what I said before the show. I'm like, I am so 50-50. Apparently I could coach the Bucks. Actually, you would probably do a better job than anybody coaching the Bucks, but Doc Rivers.
I could be the GM of the Bucks, but I can't coach worth shit. I couldn't coach 7th graders.
Hey, Giannis, go get the ball and try to
Yeah.
dunk it there. I think that's Doc Rivers coaching right now as is. But I'm just curious what you think
So
about
that's what I would
Makovic.
do.
Yeah, I just think there's so many ways Makovic could play more minutes, and it only takes one time for him to like. Again, if you were 20%, I wouldn't care. But like Elf is intriguing at 3,200. Makovic is intriguing at 4,200. I think those are two guys that are just way underowned. And then I think you have other Pelicans that are just filling into lineups. Like I have 20% of Missy. I have 22% of Jordan Hawkins. I have 40% Alvarado, which probably comes down a little bit. I'm a little aggressive on it, mainly because I capped some of the early value. Like Schroeder, I love,
Okay.
but like it's in the first game, so I can't go nuts with it. Talk to me about the Pelicans, because like again, Makovic I think is an awesome tournament play.
I'm rerunning everything now. We had a projections update at 6:10, so I refreshed that. Ownership is updated on the screen properly. I'm about to run my update for it to see it, what we've got changing here. I can't imagine it's much. I don't think this update could have had too much in it. But in terms of the Pelicans, at least for me, I was basically just dead neutral to everybody on this prior run. Exact same amount of Alvarado, same amount of Hawkins, basically the same amount of Bruce Brown, a little bit over on Kelly Olynyk, neutral on Misi, a little bit over on Elfrid Payton, which is truly something I don't enjoy at all. Just one of the worst players in the league, and I'm rostering him. But that's DFS for you. If he plays 20 minutes, he's at least a decent per minute guy. I like the Carlo Makovic call. I do wonder that JRE complicates matters there. Like it could be either one of them that falls into a couple extra minutes in that scenario. It does make me just like, it does make me want to pick one of the two in lieu of the Kelly Olynyk stand, but I don't know. I mean, we got 12% optimal. You need 39 out of Olynyk at that price tag.
Yeah, I think Olynyk's
I don't know how
bet.
much I'm going to get, but I like where your head's at.
He's a better bet, like in terms of assists. If you think it's going to play more like 5,800, we're just kind of getting him priced out. He was 5,100. I think he was pretty intriguing to take shots on, but like, what's his minutes upside? They're not going to play him like 30 plus, even if this game is competitive, right? Like, it would be weird to me that Kelly Olynyk would walk into 30 minutes. And that's where I think, like, who has a better chance between the two of playing more minutes as great fantasy producers, Kelly Olynyk or Carlo Matkovic? And it's like, we're going to just lowball Carlo Matkovic with, like, I think a pretty pronounced upside. Let's say Golden State's up 20, end of the third. I think you're getting 14, 15 minutes of Matkovic to close the game. You could have it be JRE, but I think more than likely he just backs up Evis Missy there. And so if I'm going to try to find low-owned tournament targets, one, I like to have them be later on if I can. Two, I want to have a price tag that they could obliterate if they walk into more minutes. And that's where like Elf, 3,200, Makovic, 4,200. Like there's a clear upside with blowout, maybe even pairing the two together in some lineups and just saying, all right, Golden State's up 30 at this point. Kelly Olynyk, wave the white flag. You're getting leverage over anybody who's playing these other chalky Pelicans. That's why I wanted to have this conversation, because I'm overweight to all of those guys, like off the bench, Makovic and Payton, and I'm underweight, or Alvarado's case, I'm going to have to trim it down. That's too much Alvarado.
On my rerun, I only got to 8% of Kelly Olynyk, but it didn't really save me here. Still just 5% of Carlo Makovic.
Okay, that's fair. Again, I'm kind of making more of an upside play, and I haven't projected for more minutes. So
you said he was the guy that you were most over the field on?
Yeah. I'm aware how dumb that sounds. I'm aware. I'm 7x the field right now. He's in a third of my lineups. So
right now, that answer for me is Marcus Sasser, and I don't like that at all. My second answer is Yusuf Nurkic. So it's apparently one of those days.
Love the Nurkic call, except for when it isn't, because there's obviously ways that this becomes Diabate and we want to break everything.
Oh yeah, that could happen very, very easily, which will be not fun.
Not
fun at all.
Last time out, right, for Diabate? 0, flat out 0. That's always good.
I think he got 5 the game before that.
Yep. But Charlotte, pack it in.
I'm trying to think of another team that I think we really need to touch on, but like we've walked through the Knicks, we've talked through Milwaukee, obviously.
Talked through Detroit for the most part. Utah, we got to do Utah. They're the late swap.
Yeah, let's talk Utah.
Yep. Much as it sucks, they're pretty darn important. So let's go from the lens that like Walker Kessler doesn't play because he's generally not playing on back-to-backs. Or at least that's been the game plan, is like we play the front end for the guys so the NBA doesn't get mad at us, and then we rest them on the second end of this. Kyle Filipowski starts at the 5. Who starts next to him? Johnny Juzang?
KJ Martin, maybe?
Yeah, that's somebody.
I don't know if you could start KJ Martin and Cody Williams in the same lineup.
Nothing happening. 2 guys running wind sprints to the corner.
Nothing good, I can tell you that much.
Cody Williams is so bad.
Yeah, Micah Potter's with the G League. Obviously, Markkanen already out. Collins already out. Clarkson out. Probably, maybe Juzang. Maybe Svi. I feel like he gets like spot starts in these situations from time to time.
Svi would be the super tilting one because it's a flat 3K piece that I don't have right now. Johnny Juzang has shooting guard, small forward. It's fitting into lineups. I said I've boosted like all of these guys. He's the one I've boosted the most because I think he's the most likely starter. I think KJ Martin is very live for it, but he's only $100 off. I should have most of those in the forward position to be able to swap into him if I decide to take that shot, although I'd probably find ways away from Kenyon Martin relative to what I want for Johnny Juzang. Neither of them are good, quote unquote, good fantasy performers, but Johnny Juzang is markedly better than KJ Martin. It's more of just like, I want the Kyle Filipowski jam. And let's see, what do you have him over the field as well. This is like the guy that I want to just jam, but I'm not, because it's 6K and there's obviously a downside if he's playing alongside Kessler. Sure. But if he has the 5 to himself, and even though this is a game that shouldn't be competitive in any way, shape, or form, I think he's pretty blowout immune. I mean, this is just a spot where you play your young guy just stereotypically and give him unlimited run against the best player in the NBA and let him get annihilated, but still get some shots up. So Kyle Filipowski, I think, is really, really interesting.
So do I. I think Oscar Tshiebwe could potentially start too.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be nuts.
They did that at the tail end of last year, didn't they? Like a couple of games coming down the pipeline. He was the Kansas kid, right? Tshiebwe or whatever. You go to Kansas?
Oh, I don't know. You're asking the wrong guy.
It's always fun. They didn't go to Duke. You don't know. And that's just fine with me.
I started searching for Oscar Tshiebwe, and I got Oscar the Grouch instead.
Kentucky.
He went to West Virginia and Kentucky.
Gotcha.
Take me home, country roads.
Rinpack just said to me, look at Oscar G's G League numbers. Absolute wilt. So there you go.
Going crazy.
Most guys are wilt. Look, Bronny James is Wilt Chamberlain in the G League.
So it's 6:30, bottom of the hour. I got 2 things that I could click on right now. I don't know which one I'm supposed to. I don't know what the halfway point play is supposed to be, but I'm going to go with the one that I want the most. It's been a minute since I've hosted an NBA Live before lock. Sit up in your chairs. Get excited, folks. It is time to find out who will be the white of the night. We're back.
The growl at the end is the worst.
We're so back. Bad. Who is tonight's white of the night?
Oh my God. I just listed off like all white people that I liked as contrarian plays, whether that was Carlo Matkovic or Kyle Filipowski. Must be the end of the NBA season because it's all just white dudes. Oh, shit. Tobias Harris. Oh, what?
Yeah. Hold up. Do we have any representatives from the Detroit Pistons now?
Oh,
Simone Fontecchio?
Oh, no. This is such a brutal. Why would they do this now? Why is it the first game?
Simone Fontecchio, a late add to the draft pool of white of the night.
Oh, my God. This is a terrible bit to be in the middle of.
All right.
I'm going to just put everybody
with
Jokic because he's not going anywhere. Jokic.
Let me hit everybody with this for real. Because we're laughing about it. Tobias Harris has just been ruled out for the Pistons. That is coming out of nowhere. We were not paying attention to that. Eric is giving us Nikola Jokic as tonight's white of the night. Love it. Love it. He is currently my most exposed player.
Okay.
Why the exposed player?
What is that from? Where you just hit the like.
You know what I'm going to do? This is going to be fun. We're going to go mildly thematic with big old centers. Give me Yusuf Nurkic.
Oh my God. Okay.
Double bigs.
Why did, and I was trying to figure this out last night on the betting view. Why did he just disappear, Diabate? Like what is Charlotte doing?
I don't know. I mean, Nurk's under contract for next year, so they don't have much of a choice, I think.
So like they're just playing him 20 minutes instead, as opposed to the guy that is also young and still under contract for next year.
I don't know what they're gonna do, man. I mean, technically, like
4 at times, but that didn't work out very well.
Do we want to talk through what this does for Detroit, just off the top of our heads, before we get a projection update?
I mean, the first thing is like a lot of people, like it's going to be either Asar Thompson. Like I think Malik Beasley is more live to start than Marcus Sasser or Ron Holland or Simone Fontecchio. Like I think the most likely starter is Malik Beasley.
So Schroeder, Beasley, Hardaway, Asar at the 4, Jalen Duren. Probably, yeah. I'm not confident.
I'm not confident, either, but I mean, they've
Steph Curry expected to play.
Okay, so there's the domino that we all expected to fall that way, so that's at least good. The Giannis one still sits there waiting in the wings. I think I'm cheering for it to be Malik Beasley just because he's 5,200. I'll get to some, but I won't go crazy with it. If it ends up being Ron Holland, God help us all, 3,800, you're just going to have to roll it out there. Fontecchio 3,200, if he starts, I still get really worried about what those minutes look like, but like it's a huge Cleveland front court. They just don't really have a good option at the 4. Like I doubt they start Stewart. That would be fucking wild, wouldn't it?
Like, they haven't really done it at all this year. By the way, we had Dean Wade starting. It's Isaac Okoro starting at the 3 today. Just putting that out there.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, this is just a really giant minutes bump for everybody. We're redistributing 32 minutes of Tobias Harris to Asar Thompson, to Malik Beasley, to Ron Holland, to Simone Fontecchio. Lindy Waters probably plays a little bit more now. Fontecchio's 3,200, power forward only. Holland 3,800, small forward only. Beasley 5,200, shooting guard, small forward. We have him in for 26 minutes. 4 more minutes of Beasley at 0.95 fantasy points per minute. You know, if he's getting to 30 minutes, 28.5 fantasy points, 5.5x, that starts to look like a 20-ish% owned dude. Asar right now is already 20% owned. He's in for 22 minutes. Even if you just say that becomes 25, which seems probably a little light, 28.25 fantasy points, 4,500, 6.3x. I mean, that right there puts him as like the 3rd best value play of the day, and that's 25 minutes. That could just as easily be 28. There's the lineup. Schroeder, Beasley, Hardaway, Thompson, Duren. Good call, brother.
Thank you. It's more of just like thinking about what you're going to do. Mobley's going to fuck. If you want to know who's going to absolutely destroy this game, Evan Mobley has no equal on the other side.
It just got worse for him. I mean, like, depending on how you want to call this matchup, like,
Asar Thompson can play defense, but I'm saying, I mean, Mobley has a height advantage in the post on Thompson.
I mean, also, you know, you probably want Asar Thompson guarding one of Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland as well.
Yes,
And Beasley, not a great defender.
Nope.
Definitely not as big as Tobias Harris. So yes, defensive downgrade. But Asar Thompson certainly looks like one of the better plays of the day, and he was already ranked 9th in our boom bust tool. Malik Beasley just went from a completely uninteresting player today to probably a 20-ish% owned guy.
Yep. Yeah, at least it's not Fontecchio where you would have to have like a real gut check on what those minutes are. Like we know Malik Beasley was going to play 26, 28 minutes anyway. And so now you put him up to 30. Like I'm just going to put him at 30. And I think you're going to probably, maybe even 32. I mean, Tim Hardaway Jr. also is 3,500 without anybody out there. If people don't want to play Tim Hardaway Jr., I'm going to be rolling the dice on him. Curious what you will update him to. But overall, I thought it was pretty likely that Malik Beasley would be your guy. You're just trying to up the variance of the game, knock down shots, force guys out to the perimeter. Cleveland, though, with Mobley and Allen, I mean, Duran is going to have his hands full already. And now, I mean, good luck, Thompson, with guarding Mobley. Just best of luck to you. This will be fun.
Oof. Tim Hardaway, by the way, if you get him up to 30 minutes, you'll be in that like 5.6x value range. So yeah, he's going to be like 10% owned. I mean, this is just, we took a 11% owned Tobias Harris on DraftKings, and we've created dramatically more ownership to these guys.
I also think Ron Holland, like, what are we going to do with Ron Holland? Because he'll be way lesser owned than Sasser and Schroeder, and he can play some too. Like, I'm very curious to see what happens to Ron Holland, because he's been back in this rotation now the last couple. And, you know, obviously there's been foul trouble for Asar Thompson that kind of led to it. You've had foul trouble. Like, but now you just have like a rotation spot that needs to be filled here. And, you know, Fontecchio definitely will get a minutes bump as well. He's definitely somebody that will give a little bit of a bump too. But I want to kind of keep, you know, I want to keep it in mind that like Ron Holland at 3,800, only small forward. He played 36 minutes 2 games ago. And once again, he got in fuego. He went out of control. That's why he stayed on the floor more. But you start getting into the 20-ish minutes territory, and I'll definitely want to take shots on him.
We went to 23 minutes on Ron Holland. We went to, and this is our first draft, by the way. I know Jason's working on it again.
Awesome,
but
Jason. Thank you.
Asar at 26, Malik Beasley to 28.5. Sasser at 23.5, Fontecchio up to 20, Lindy Waters getting two rotations, playing 14 minutes. That's softening a little bit of these guys, but coming out of it, it's Asar Thompson. It's still Dennis Schroeder as it was before. It's still Marcus Sasser as it was before. Johnny Myers, not as big of a jump as we would have expected.
Yeah, Paul Reach should get some minutes here. No, he shouldn't. I expect him to play 0 minutes. If you had gotten the scenario, I'm just thinking about a Cleveland front court of Mobley and Allen. I'm like, all right, if you had gotten Stewart out there for whatever reason, again, I thought it was a very, very low percentage that he would be out there. Yeah, you could have had a conversation about Paul Reed, but we're not going to have a conversation about Paul Reed because there's no conversation to be had.
No, I'm going to pull all these projections and get them up on the screen right now for everybody, because we just got another ownership run about 5 seconds ago. So we can get this update and see what the first draft looks like. And I know we'll probably be getting another one over the course of the next 5 to 10 minutes or so as we ramp up for 7 o'clock. Before we head to playback for live after lock, myself and Greg Ehrenberg are going to be watching some games, prepping for ownership, late swaps, all the news that's coming in post lock. It's a great slate to come in and watch games. If you have League Pass, you could watch along with us. It's fantastic. The game's just on the screen. If you don't have League Pass, we have 20 VIP passes that we could hook you guys up with. You can see the game. Worst case scenario, you just see Greg and I talking about the games the same way that Eric and I are doing it right now. So if you guys can handle that, and I think you can for the free information you get here, costs you absolutely nothing to head to Playback. So do that. Playback.tv/Stokastic. I've got the updated projections. They are now getting put on the screen. I'm updating injury designations as well. That's why Tobias Harris is still listed where you see him. And
not showing up in lineups anymore. Thank you, God. Ooh, look at that.
Who's not?
Was that in real time? No, I was just saying your screen. You just changed it up. That's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Refreshing in. So Asar Thompson now ranking 8th in the boom bust tool, 20% optimal, 20% owned. It's a 46% chance of 33 fantasy points. Sasser's looking a little bit better. He's at 6th, but that didn't really create much here for Ron Holland, for Fontecchio, even for Beasley. 5.3 value, 5% optimal, 22% boom. Could see this climb a little bit in a refresh, but that didn't make the impact that I expected it to.
It's just like what happens is you had like two completely uninteresting 0%ers in Fontecchio, Ron Holland, that like pulled their way into like you could make a case for it, but like you still don't want to get there. And then Malik Beasley goes from 26.5 off the bench being staggered with one of, whether that's Schroeder, Thompson, who can fill up a box score at least in his time period. And then you're just kind of like lowering the usage ever so slightly, but you're adding enough minutes that like it's at least interesting. Positionality, it's at least interesting. It's kind of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. They're going to get blasted, so that'll be cool.
I'm running a sim quickly now to see if there was any impact. I can't imagine that changed much of anything here. I guess it makes Schroeder look a little bit better because it's not Tobias Harris out there, but I mean, it's not like Beasley's not going to be getting shots up too, so it's probably net neutral.
What's it do for Duren? Wasn't really getting to Duren because we want to use center on spend ups. Like we have Cat, we have Jokic. I'm just curious because I had 0 Duren. I bet I still get 0 Duren, but like Tobias Harris, it's got to help with rebounding a little bit.
Yeah, probably. Although Asar Thompson's a pretty good rebounder, so I don't know. It's probably relatively neutral. Like I didn't really have him before. He ranks 42nd. He's 5% optimal. I figure I get a couple shares in 150, and that's about it. Who are we missing? Who haven't we talked about? Chat. Who did you expect to hear about? And you're like, why aren't these morons talking about this guy? Who is it?
I think we did a pretty good job of hitting like the finer points. We could probably get into the nuke of the night if you want to click an animation button and give yourself a minute to figure out what the fuck you want to say.
You were an hour and a half, or you're a minute and a half faster than I wanted you to be on that.
Oh, sorry.
I appreciate you.
You have this like cut up perfectly the way that you want it done. I appreciate that about you.
I had the mark in my head for 6:45, so I was ready for it at least. Okay. So, all right. Well then, kaboom, everybody. Boom. I just realized that we do that and we just sit here in silence for 30 seconds on playback.
You just had to break the silence. It was too awkward for you. Had to let it rip.
It was the nuke of the night, brother.
All right. So, I mean, we just got, a little bit of enhanced value to some extent with Detroit still. Like, I mean, Schroeder looks a little bit better to me, getting a little bit more. I think everything makes sense there, but I got to go back to my dude, Karla Matkovic. He's treated me really, really well, being overweight pretty much all the time to him. He's a really good fantasy performer. It doesn't take much for him to walk into more minutes. We've seen 26, 27, 26 in a lot of these situations where Zion Williamson's been out and the Pelicans get blasted, which is going to be something that is a recurring theme for them between now and the end of the year. I always prefer to have him at the 5 if I can, but like, I'm okay with it here because once again, they're huge dogs and they should be. And I just don't think New Orleans really wants to push the minutes of Kelly Olynyk under any circumstances. So if people are going to play him, I just don't think there's like a huge minutes upside to him here. It's still playable, I suppose, still sub 6K, but I strongly prefer trying to get to Elf Payton, to Karla Matkovic, two really good fantasy producers who are going to see backup run and, probably aren't going to win you many tournaments if this game plays neutral. But the number of times you get those game scripts where it really, really blows out, you want the good fantasy performers. You need the good fantasy performers. They also lock right around this Milwaukee time. So by boosting them, I get a little bit more. access to try to turn them into Milwaukee pieces if need be. So Karlo Makovic, for now, your nuke of the night.
It's so easy to want to click on Giannis. And I did. I have a ton. So easy to want to click on Nikola Jokic. And I did. I have a ton. But I have 2x the field of somebody else that I think people need to be getting to today. And he's just, for some reason, like slipping under the radar a little bit. Maybe just because he doesn't project like those guys. But I'm heading to New York, a team that's missing every single ball handler that had a pulse. They're getting down to the nitty gritty. But just give me Towns to dominate this Milwaukee team with no Dame. 10-2, 16% ownership on our last run. He's in 34% of my lineups. I'm going to pay up with Jokic. I'm going to pay up with Giannis, but I am also going to pay up with quite a bit of Karl Anthony Towns. And I'm going to watch him drop bombs on Milwaukee.
Brook Lopez has played 36, 42, 38 minutes 3 of the last 5 nights. Like,
Old
Brook
legs,
Lopez has
tired.
been putting in cardio recently. Like, we're talking massive minutes. I got to think that that's going to hit you eventually here, Brook Lopez. So I really like the cat shout out. I'm overweight to all 3 of them, but yeah, there's a world where if you get Giannis out, especially on the other side of that one too, Karl Anthony Towns is going to have a blast tonight. The fantasy rate without Jalen Brunson on the floor continues to be a thing. And now you're getting a pass-centric Tyler Kolek, no usage going to anybody besides him and OG Anunoby recently. So don't hate that whatsoever.
John the Bettis says, Sims are giving me 65% of cat in my 20 max. It's a good stand, brother. I'm telling you. Cat season. A lot of people are talking Sam Merrill in chat. He's not a guy that I think is playable in any way. What am I missing here?
Yeah, you're not missing anything. His, I bet the under of his points plus assist prop. Do you want to guess what it was?
9.5.
Yeah, 10.5. I mean, it's too big. 10.5. His points plus assists is too high. Minus 110. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I can't believe some of the numbers that people are projecting Sam Merrill for, that the marketplace has him for. So you know what I did? I took the under because you're allowed to do such things, like with Portfolio EV.
Yeah, I will be very surprised if I have a single share of Sam Merrill in my 150. I don't right now. I can say that much. We got a projections update at 646. Tends to mean ownership will drop somewhere in the next 90 seconds. Once that does, I will grab everything. We will start this final run and we'll start hashing out what we're going to have. Guys, hit that like button one last time if you haven't done it yet. We're on the final home stretch before we get to lock. And I still want you guys to know that the Portfolio EV tool can be acquired on a 7-day free trial at any point in time. If you've never signed up with us before, there's a link in the description that can get you to OddsShopper and get you this Portfolio EV tool for 7 days at no cost. Take a market-based approach to beating the books. We've got projected value and projected win rates on all of these props across multiple sports and countless books. We've got mass betting, mobile app, notifications. We've got all of our historical recommendations, so you can check out everything we've ever had before, build out a portfolio that matches something that you like, get notifications for those bets, odds boost calculators, parlay builders, all of the same sort of stuff on the pick'em side. So if you're not in a legal sports betting state, you're not boxed out here. Click the link in the description to sign up. Boom. Ooh, boom. We're back. All right. We should just about have it.
Yep, I'm uploading my stuff.
Ownership is updated. We're coming down the stretch, guys. 10 minutes to go. Bruce Booth wants to know, can you get to Russ if Jamal Murray doesn't play?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not
you definitely
can. But he's going to look way better than he does right now.
He looks unplayable right now. He would be playable, but still not something I wanted to get to at 7,400 because, yeah, he and Jokic have talked about this bond they have. Guess what? It's still Jokic back. So, I have no desire to play a 7,400 Russell Westbrook with any meaningful amount with Jokic back in the lineup. Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon taking on more usage at times. Michael Porter Jr., 1 game of usage once again here showing up. And Christian Brown being pretty prominent in terms of minutes. Like Russ, just You're still not going to project him over 33 minutes, 32 minutes in any scenario there. It's not going to look good.
No, he'll be fine, but nothing interesting. A little under-owned just because of the late swap capabilities and all, but not something you have to like plan ahead for in any major way. At least not that I can picture. That seems like a lot. All right,
how much Dennis Schroeder are you going to be firing up? That's what I need to know. Dennis Schroeder, man. This first game, because again, you'll be able to go to playback and watch Josh and Greg talk about this. It's the only game that we have locking. Cleveland, Detroit, right from the get-go. And Dennis Schroeder, the guy that I think just figuring out what you're going to be doing with that piece, it's going to have implications of what other pieces of value you're playing later, how you're going about it. But currently playing him in 80% of my lineups. So rip me.
I had 60% on my last run. I have my final sim going right now. But I was standing on 66% of Asar Thompson, 60 of Jokic, 60 of Schroeder, 60 of Giannis. And then I kind of stepped down into this 40 range of Kolek, Simpson, and Sasser. So cornering the market on guards. And then I get to my boy Towns, who better still exists in these things. Else I'm going to have to amend my nuke of the night in some way.
It's always fun when nuke of the night becomes irrelevant. That happened the other night with King Carr, and everybody got ruled in. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to have 0% of my nuke. That was nice of me.
Do you think that it happened to you that way because you didn't even have the decency to pronounce his name correctly?
Kansar?
Chanchar.
Is it Chanchar?
Yeah.
Yeah, it tells you how many times I've seen. All I know is that he was in the rotation for a hot second there. And I'm like, all right, if everybody's out, we're going to Chanchar. Chanchar? Is that really how you say it?
Chanchar. Yeah.
I've watched a lot of Nuggets basketball. Well, he's generally not been on the floor. So in fairness, like it hasn't mattered up until this point.
No, he's been pretty dinged up for years. But yeah, maybe that's why he failed you.
He's an interesting four at times. I don't hate the skill set. Just terrible fantasy producer. Just whatever.
6.5 minutes to go. Lineups are being ranked as we speak. Asar Thompson up to 55% owned now at 49% optimal. Yeah.
Oh no,
that's big.
You know how this ends, right? Yeah. This ends with the tweet from DK DFS, 2 quick ones. Like you just see it every single time from our friend Danny.
I'm in piss.
Oh, 3 quick ones. God.
Ricky wants to know about Porter Jr. for Cleveland. Not on the table at all. Straight 0 guy today. Unplayable.
Don't do it. He's like 18. You have Garland and Mitchell. They're going to get more minutes. Those are the guys who get more minutes. Like they have Javonte Green in the rotation. Again, I said Dean Wade's name, him, Isaac Okoro, like basically 24 types. You have Tristan Thompson getting ejected at times. It's really fun to watch, but like they can play 9 guys deep still. And Ty Jerome's generally a really good fantasy producer and fun to watch out there. It's not as much fun to watch Craig Porter Jr. try to buy a bucket alongside Mobley, Allen, Garland, Mitchell. Like it's just not going to be a thing. So don't do it.
No. All right. I got my lineups done. Let's talk through some of these exposures. Do you have your stuff in or are you working on that?
I'm uploading it this second. So I'm just
all right.
Entry manager, enable duplicate lineups, click, click, click. We are in. There we go.
Who is your most exposed player for today?
It is Giannis Antetokounmpo at the moment, 88%.
Oh, you got more than me. I got 58% of Giannis. He is my second most exposed player. Number 1 on the list, Dennis Schroeder, currently projected at 64% optimal, 63% owned, and 65% of my lineups. Do I still have Cat? I do. 33% ownership to Cat. The nuke stands.
Good. We don't want to be backless, faceless people, although that's what I was the other day. I apologize. You know what? Look at this. 88% Giannis, 84% Schroeder, 66% Asar Thompson, 66% Karl Anthony Towns. What a time to be alive.
Ooh, you're loving it. You're loving it. I also, for reference,
I didn't know that I loved it.
of Jokic.
Yeah, did what the Sims gave me. And so I feel pretty good about this. Where did you end up on Kolek? And we're obviously still assuming that he starts because he's in 52% of my lineups, and I'm fine with that too.
43.
Okay.
Let's hash through who is your biggest fade tonight.
All right. So
I'm most under on.
So Jose Alvarado, remember when I had 40% of him? I now have 16% of a 26% Jose Alvarado. I have a 12% of a 19% Jordan Hawkins. I'm just scrolling down through. I'm not going to paste it into the sheet. I have 2% of a 15% Emmanuel Quickly. Like Emmanuel Quickly's pulling 15% ownership. All righty. Good to know. I should probably get a little bit more Bridges before that game starts, but I'm not going to deal with it now. I've got 0 of him at 12%. Let's see. I'm over on Sasser, 28% of him now. Oh, here you go. Here's the big fade. 2 big fades. I have 0% Tajon Salon, and I have 0% Bryce Sensabaugh, who's at, I guess, sub 10% ownership. But neither of those guys sound that appealing to me.
I don't have any big fades. The most I'm under the field on anyone is on the screen right now. OG Anunoby. I have 9% and he's 14.
So this is chalk. We're just playing chalk today.
Neutral on Schroeder, neutral on Giannis, a little bit over on Jokic, neutral on Asar, neutral on KJ Simpson, well over on Kolek, neutral on Sasser, well over on Towns, little under on Beasley, neutral Alvarado. I'm just reading these guys off in my exposures. Neutral on Jordan Hawkins, and then I start taking some stands on Filipowski, Nurkic, Sensabaugh. But yeah, it's like Anunoby, Beasley, Miles Bridges, like 5% lighter than the field.
I want to take some shots on Juzang too. I should probably give him a little bit more of a boost because I have like none. He's 2% at the moment, and I've talked enough about those idiots that I should probably get to a little bit. But let me just redo this one more time. We've got 2 minutes? I got plenty of time.
You've got 2 minutes. By the way, for anybody playing DFS, NBA DFS tomorrow, be ready for a different rotation in Memphis. They have the 8 o'clock game against the Lakers, and they're going to have a different coach. So who the hell knows what the Grizzlies are going to do tomorrow?
Can we leave on that? Because now we've got our lineups in. We talked about our exposures. What the hell happened today?
I don't know.
I still haven't heard that he has a sex tape or anything out. Yeah. Does he have a sex tape? Is he killing people in Memphis and they are, needing to cover their bases now? Like, you don't fire. I would consider him a top 6 coach, 7 coach in the NBA. Like, Taylor Jenkins is a legit good basketball coach and done a great job at like managing rotations for them all year long. Like, I don't understand it, Josh. I really don't.
I don't either, but he is going to be very popular in coaching free agency this offseason.
I would think so. If you have an availability, he's probably your first call, period. Like, not close.
I want him to go to San Antonio. That's where I'd like him to end up.
Be awesome. That'd be like he
started at San Antonio very briefly. He worked under Bud in Atlanta. So like he's in that coaching tree at least a little bit. After they get Cooper Flag this year and he goes out there and coaches.
I want that
Flag
so
and
bad. Wemby and Flag on the floor together. I mean, that is just like music to my ears. That just sounds so fun.
It's wild. You know what else is wild? We are through an hour of Live Before Lock, brother. This show is in the books. Anything else you want to add before we get out of here? Because Greg and I are going to watch some basketball. Actually, we're going to go watch Cleveland and Detroit right now. Detroit, the most owned team. So this is going to be a fun little sweat here.
No, I'm posting the playback link in. You guys want to jump over there here now? Jump over to playback here this second. I'll post it a couple of times so you don't miss it. It's time to go swippy swap our lineups, go react to some ownership here in the first game, which obviously there are some major talking points. I'm sure you could answer a couple baseball questions from Gregory as well. But overall, really good week. Good to have baseball going. Promo code Cycles still available till April 4th. So take advantage of that as well at the link below. And let's have a great weekend. Thanks, Josh.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Hit the like button on your way out the door. Good luck. We'll see you on playback. Adios. Do we have an outro? No. Bye.